Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. As Ghana continues to struggle with the impact of the internet outage despite improving supply, Communications Minister Esla Owusu-Ekufo is expected to brief Parliament on the way forward. International Monetary Fund cautions Ghana to be mindful on the terms of its debt restructuring deal with foreign creditors as it warns gains under its support program could be eroded. Later in sport, Ghana's top athletes book places in semi-finals at the All-African Games. We take you live to the University of Ghana for updates. Thank you very much for joining us. Data services as at this afternoon are improving. The abrupt cut in internet connectivity affected almost all facets of activities, including business, health, education, and more. The development sparked conversations on the country's preparedness for a similar event in the future, with the attendant national security implications highlighted by experts. The Communications Minister, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, is this afternoon expected to appear before Parliament to provide details on the challenges and what mitigating actions the government and its agencies are taking to resolve the challenge. First, though, here are some businesses mostly affected by the ongoing disruption in internet service. Electricity Company of Ghana Credit Purchase, Health Services, Digital Banking Services, Forex Trading, among others. We'll be crossing over to Parliament shortly for update on Madam Esla Owusu's appearance in the House. But first, let's speak to Emmanuel Samani. He's visited some prepaid ECG vending centers where the internet glitch has affected services. Some cluster of customers have been unable to reload their prepaid meters for the past 5 days. Samani, if you can hear me, what situational report can you give us?
Well, thank you very much, Beatrice. Well, I've been visiting several vending stations across the city, checking in on that internet connectivity situation. And it's been quite of a mixed bag, if you ask me, because there are some places who are experiencing severe disruptions, while others seem to be managing reasonably well the situation. I've been engaging one of such customers who tells me that over the past 24 hours, the connectivity seems to have resolved, and here's what he has to say.
Since I've been to work, everything is cool. I've been selling since one. I've had no issue. So I just hope it goes the same throughout the week. And ECG too, they should try and help us, because mostly when I come to work and there's no network, I find it difficult. And the customers have also been complaining a lot. So they should try and help us so we can go on. So I can say.
So that was a customer there speaking to Emmanuel Samani. Emmanuel, if you are still on the line, so that's just a customer sharing experience. But those places you visited, what was the situation like? Chaos, or they were trying to deal with the challenge at hand?
I think the word we're looking for here is frustration with regards to the recent disruption, because they've described to me as incredibly frustrating, which is also causing significant delays and difficulties while conducting their businesses. However, a few of them, like I did indicate earlier, have also seen some slight improvements today, which I think overall, on the grand scheme of things, is a positive sign. So the consensus generally seems to be that the internet connectivity issues are improving, but the frustration still lingers as a result of the challenges associated with the internet connectivity issues, where individuals are unable to purchase, their credit. Others are also unable to transact businesses, as in the case of some business owners here around the Kokomene enclave. So it's a mixed bag, really, if you ask me, and that's what it is like. But I'm sure, as said by the NCA, the telcos are working around the clock to ensure that we will have some restoration to the internet disruption soon.
Samani, before you go, of course, the ECG officials were also there. What kind of messages did they give them? We understand that top management is meeting on this. And I'm just asking this because for those who have not had lights for the past 5 days, I'm wondering what kind of message the ECG officials gave them.
Well, upon arrival, most of the ECG officials did not want to speak on the matter. All the information that we've gathered really are from the vendors who spoke with officials of the ECG one-on-one. So I cannot confirm exactly what the plan is by the ECG regarding that internet connectivity issue in relation to the inability of vendors to get the electricity. So I will definitely keep an eye out and updating listeners subsequently right here.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Samani, bringing us updates from ECG vending centers he's visited and the frustration he saw there. Like I told you, management of the Electricity Company of Ghana is holding a crucial meeting to discuss the challenges being faced by consumers and how to mitigate the impact on them. We'll be going to Parliament shortly, where we understand that the Communications Minister, Eslo Kufol, will be addressing the House on what kind of measures the government intends or has already put in place to deal with this challenge. Meanwhile, IT consultant Derek Laye is urging internet users to be mindful of the kind of activities to engage in during this period of limited supply.
Even more importantly, there's still a lot of responsibility on our part as users, things that we need to do, things that we need to be able to educate ourselves with to be able to get the best out of our phones at this time. So example, if you're using a smartphone, you're using data, there are apps that you don't need. That consume data even when you're not using them. You need to look at them on your phone, take a quick study of your phone, or get a good IT person to just look at them. And if you're not using certain specific apps, take them down at this time, or you can even just freeze them so that the little application or the little capacity that hits your phone can be able to be evenly properly distributed to the things that are essential, like your emails, like you being able to stay connected with your family and things like that. For those working in IT organizations, so they are looking at data conservation, a lot of bandwidth preservation and the likes. For those working in IT companies, if you have to even install patches, and you need to be able to provide them on local servers to support the company users who are all going to walk into your company Monday morning, connect their laptops, and things are going to start downloading. Everybody's going to start downloading something, sometimes not even by their doing, but just by design of how basically systems work. So if you have a local server that's hosting some of these very essential apps that are required, then it means that you probably just have computers installing them from a local server rather than having to now use the internet. Or even if you don't need to stream right now, you need to be streaming is a very tough experience right now. It's Monday, it's going to stay like this throughout Friday. We're hoping that it can stay. Right now you can realize the network is not too bad, but we're hoping that it can stay like this because a lot of people are using the network for essential things, particularly to work. There are a lot of remote workers, there are ride-hailing apps people, there are hospitals that are using them to be able to look at patient records, there are banks that are basically doing cash in, cash outs, mobile money operators, people want to take money, withdraw money, put money in. All of these things requires the internet, and we're hoping that we can be able to preserve a lot more internet from our side so that everybody can be able to have good use of it so that we can all stay productive and efficient within the economy.
IT consultant Derek Laye speaking to us earlier. Now, the International Monetary Fund is cautioning Ghana to be mindful in its dealings with its private creditors, warning a terrible agreement could derail gains made under its support program. Despite completing a domestic restructuring program, the nation is yet to conclude talks with some of its private creditors as part of the $3 billion support. The IMF boss and her team are currently in Ghana holding talks with key government officials. Last night, the IMF chief, Kristalina Georgieva, met President Akufo-Addo, and this is what she had to say.
Eurobond creditors to twist your arm. Why? Because you have done a very painful domestic debt restructuring. It hurt people here. You have agreed on, in principle, on that restructuring with the official creditors of Ghana under certain conditions. The deal with the Eurobond has to be a fair deal vis-a-vis those that are already done. Otherwise, we risk to see what happened in Zambia, where the deal was almost, in October I thought that the deal is done. Then the private sector twisted Zambia's arm and they try to give them a better deal than the official creditors had. The official creditors put their foot down, and Zambia lost a lot of time. So that is my reflection. Critical time, close to the top. We still need to do a bit of climbing.
IMF boss Kristalina Georgieva, the president had this response for her.
I take into account very seriously the advice that you're giving us about our dealings with the private creditors. As I'm sure the finance minister has already told you, we've made quite significant progress in that area. But it is progress, of course, and ultimately also has to get your buy-in. And he's very conscious of that, and is working to make sure that the final deal, as it were, is one that would meet with your approval, and that therefore would be seen to be strongly within the parameters of the arrangements that we have together.
President Akufo-Addo, let's bring in economist Professor John Gyi, who is the Dean of University of Cape Coast Business School. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Quite an interesting caution coming from the IMF. Is it fair to say that perhaps the fund has some indication that what may be agreed will not be favorable?
Well, I think the fund had experience with the case of Zambia. And then it's also apparent that perhaps the Zambia situation is such that the country could have done better to clinch a deal that is more in the interest of the country than what happened to them. So I believe it's just using the Zambia case to provide advice and caution to the government of Ghana, especially as the government of Ghana want to do everything possible to tell everybody that they have clinched a deal. So I think it is only in the right direction for such a warning to be given.
But really, where do we go from here as a nation, trying to basically please two masters, should I say?
Well, we have signed a debt exchange agreement. And while we go from here, we will continue to manage our relation with...
Your call has been put on hold. Please wait. Your call has been put on hold.
Hello? Hello? All right, it seems we've lost Professor Gyi there, but we'll reconnect to him and continue with that conversation. But you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Just stay with us.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba. Freezer. Adama. What's the mention? Adama. Metimoso, my sorry. Canino, over Moasia. I do for Nobium Unum and San last night. I don't know what we do. Adam of what you have from what we say. Yet you drew back up a ship will be a high technology. I could for freezer. When Kwan and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what ya no fugum. What the bus here? For you be any of us you, I could say, over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. Nem wasena for na no freezer umpa we na pade freezer
basia ebe so do so ama amoni age
omutina me wasika omutina me di me nyina duru ba so me dum Adama without Adama no kuya Adama you can't resist
Benya Adama West Africa for adwe bi wo be bibia ye ton kra ye ho adwu afi kayo na kenkan enchoya ewo adwe ho.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Thank you for staying. Let's continue our conversation with Professor John Gyi, who is giving us his view as regards the caution from the IMF. Hello, Prof, if you can hear us. You were making a point earlier as to how we can balance the situation, trying to please two masters.
Well, it's not really about pleasing two masters. It's about signing a deal that is reflective of the interests of the country and the finances of the country. On the other hand, a deal that will not actually eat up the country along the way, so that the economic management can reflect the interests of the people, can reflect the interests of business community, and can also allow us to undertake projects that we need to take to develop the country. We cannot be working only to be paying debt. That is not the best for the country. Right now, our commitment to capital expenditure is so low, and our commitment to goods and services is also so low. And what that means is that within the next 3 years, most of the vehicles of the state institutions, the tools that they use will become outmoded, dilapidated, and that they will not be very efficient in delivering on their services to the private sector and to the citizenry as a whole. So these are the things that we need to take into account as we manage the economy, so that the economy is not only meant to be paying for debt.
Prof, before you go, just curious though, IMF boss Kristalina Georgieva are visiting the country at a time there's a lot of argument about whether or not there's a need for the president to give his accent to LGBTQ bill and the implications the finance ministry issued earlier. What's your view? Do you think, yes, we heard the IMF saying it's for artificial intelligence conference, but do you see anything, a conversation around that area as well?
Well, I do not think that the IMF director is in the country because of LGBTQ issues. It may come out during their private discussion, but I'm not sure that is why. In fact, in 2016, when we were under the IMF program, the deputy IMF director visited the country. He met various groups, including those who are working in the economic and finance space. In fact, I was in that meeting, and we had some discussion. So I believe it's the same way that the managing director is in the country for AI discussions, and because that is also going to spell out a different dimension of economic activities for most countries, especially in developing countries. So it's just an important meeting that is attending, and meeting various people who are of interest to the IMF engagement with Ghana. So that's how I see it. And I believe that the president has no business not to sign the law. The majority of people and the unanimous decision by Parliament to pass the law should give a democratic leader the impression that you need to follow a democratic tenet of signing a bill that is promoted by unanimous decision.
We'll end it here. Thank you very much, economist Professor John Gyi. He's also the Dean of University of Cape Coast Business School. Thank you for speaking to us. Let's return to Parliament, where we told you that the Communications Minister, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, is expected to appear before the House to answer some questions on what the government is doing to deal with this internet blackout in the country, although the situation is improving. Duke Mesopoku is there for us. He joins us live. Duke, when is the minister expected to arrive?
She's scheduled to arrive this morning, or I'll say this afternoon, to answer questions. First, two questions standing in the names of different members of Parliament before she takes to the question relating to, not question necessarily, but a statement relating to the internet outage across the country. So if you look at the order paper for today, the order paper essentially relates to the issues surrounding what Parliament is going to do in a particular day. So the questions are from Roxanne Dafian upon the NCA and what is going to do with in relation to payments made by telcos and the SIM registration exercise, and then expansion of network connectivity in Tesuma North. These are the questions that she's supposed to answer. But then she's also been given the opportunity, as summoned by the Parliament on Friday, to make a statement on the internet outage across the country and the internet disruption to internet services across the country. And so she's not on the floor of Parliament yet. The order of business has had to be varied. to accommodate some statements while the House wait for it to turn up.
Duke, the last time we spoke, that was last week, you mentioned that Parliament was not necessarily affected by this blackout. But apart from what you've told us, what else is going to happen in Parliament? We understand that the House may be considering some bills. Can you give us details?
Yes, so I can tell you this morning that as at now, the 34th report of the Appointments Committee on the President's nominations for appointments as ministers and deputy ministers and regional ministers have just been laid on the floor of Parliament. They will consider that. There are a number of bilateral agreements that the House seeks to ratify. Charter, for instance, the Charter for African Cultural Renaissance, the bilateral agreement for the government of the Kingdom of Sweden for engagement in cooperative approaches involving internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. That's a climate change agreement between Ghana and Sweden, as well as between Ghana and Singapore. And then also the PIAC report. There are a number of reports that they have to consider. Also, tomorrow, Parliament, the Electoral Commissioner will be meeting the Committee of the Whole in Parliament to brief them on their preparedness for election 2024. This is the last week of Parliament sitting, which means that on Wednesday they will rise for the Easter festivities.
Thank you very much, Duke Mesopoku. He's our correspondent in Parliament. Now, former Auditor General Daniel Domelevo says that President Akufo-Addo has not lived up to his pledge to fight corruption, citing recent admissions by the Minerals Income Investment Fund that $12 million has so far been spent on the botched Ejapa royalties deal. The former AG argued that the nation has moved from taxation to robbery instead of production, which the president promised.
It is the tone at the top which deters public servants. It's just like your father will allow it. If your big brothers are bullying you, you only pray that your father arrives.
The president hasn't lived to the promise of...
I don't think so. If by the time the risk, what do you call it? I've forgotten the name we call it. The risk analysis of Ejapa was done and people's head started rolling. I think we will not be told today that so much has been paid. Indeed. And I don't know. Since we got to know, I don't know the date the audit report came out. Unfortunately, I've not been there in the town for many times. I just heard it in the person. What has happened? What has happened? If monies which should not be paid have been paid, 12 million is not small money, my sister. It's not small money. And we are taxing people. In fact, we are moving the country from taxation to robbery instead of to production that we were promised. Now we are robbing everybody. Even your money that you are using to pay them, they tax you on it. So this is robbery. We are robbing people and use it this way. I can't get it. So it is the tone at the top which determines. Leadership, from my point of view, is everything. Leadership is everything.
And that was Daniel Domelevo. He is a former Auditor General speaking to us earlier. Now, the Ghana National Association of Private Schools says it will support any political party that is ready to address operational challenges of private schools. The association claims that most private schools risk collapse due to high operational costs and some unfavorable government policies. Nicholas Bomboni is the Ashanti Regional Secretary of the association.
This year, we as private schools are going to play politics. Because looking at the things that are going on, the 30% placement we're talking about, now, they say that the 30% is for the government schools. So what happens is, when the placement comes, they will give the allocation for private schools 30% or for government schools. And ours will now be shared with 70% with the government schools again. So at the end, our schools, our students don't get the A schools. You find out that they get the low schools. Because of that, all our students are running to the government schools. And we are saying that any political party that is ready to marry us, ready to put that ring before us, then they should scrap that 30% out of it. They should make sure that this BEC, with the registration last year, 170 cities. This year, do you know how much they are collecting? 214 Ghana cities. This year alone. Last year 170, this year 214 cities. What is happening? So we are saying that if these things can be reviewed, then we are ready as an association to also vote for that political party.
You have Nicholas Bomboni. He is the Ashanti Regional Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools. Let's connect with our correspondent there, Ibrahim Abubakar. He joins us live on the line. Ibrahim, paint a picture for us as regards the challenge faced by private schools, particularly in your region.
Well, myriad of challenges they will tell you, and they are saying that is even crippling their business because when you look at cost of operation is very, very high, and they are unable to even compete with the public school that are supposed to be free. So, like you heard him rightly mention, the 30% priority placement policy for public school, they want it scrapped. For them, they believe that if the system was even meant to allocate admissions to children who are either disadvantaged by physical disabilities or geographical location or even economic circumstances, that would have been better rather than discriminating and saying if you go to public school, you will be given the first offer before they will come. So now what is happening is that most of their children, when they get to JHS2, are leaving to public schools just to be able to write the BC and get the grade A schools. Now they are also talking about the NTC, that's National Teaching Council, also taking 250 cedis each from their teachers to issue them some sort of license to be able to teach, which they also say to be astronomically high because these things are not seen in the state school. Then they are also talking about government intervention. They wanted to be part of the free SHS policy so that at least if it's a subsidized form of policy for them, they know that they would have come halfway, government to also meet them halfway for those children to be able to benefit. And they calculate all these things and realize that the cost of doing business for them is very, very high and must be reviewed. So this time around, they are open. They say they will be political, but they will look at the manifestos of each political party and see those who have written a manifesto that will benefit private schools. Then they will all throw their support behind that political party.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar. He's Ashanti Regional Correspondent. Now, Ghana's top athletes have secured places in the semi-finals in the ongoing All-African Games. Yao Fosulabi joins us in the studio with updates. Yao, I'm sure you're happy.
Yeah, I'm very happy at the performance. I mean, if the country presented 6 athletes, 3 men, 3 women in 100 meters, and all of them have qualified to the semi-finals, I think is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, beyond that, we know that we've also won some medals. I think over the weekend it was up to 40, am I right?
Yes, over the weekend, the arm wrestling team alone won 41 medals, and it's incredible. I don't think any Ghanaian sport has ever won so much at the African Games, but they have 41 medals is huge, and it puts Ghana 6th on the medal table, and I think a few of the boxers have also qualified into the medal zone. They could be fighting potentially for a silver medal or a gold medal. The thing about boxing is that the moment you get into the medal zone, you are automatically guaranteed a medal. So the minimum you could get is a bronze, but they need to fight again to change it, whether to get gold or silver, whatever it is. But I think that's where we are at the moment. And so there will be a few more medals that will come from boxing. We are hoping that these 6 athletes who have qualified to the next stage, that's the semi-final, 3 women, 3 men, hopefully can get into the final, and maybe 2 or 3 of them could mount the podium. It would be really nice to see 1st, 2nd, 3rd for Ghana, but that would be a really big ask. But hopefully, maybe 2 of them get on the podium. But I think it's a really I like the way everything is shaping up for Ghana at the moment.
After we started negatively.
so poorly. It looks like things are looking up at the moment. And so the athletics is from today until Friday. If you have a little time, please pass through the Legon Sports Stadium. Tomorrow, the 100-meter men's final is at 5:20 p.m. So, Beatrice, you should make your way.
Thank you very much. And that was Yao Fosulabi bringing us the latest from the All-African Games. And that's how we end the news here on 3FM. Our top stories as Ghana continues to struggle with the impact of internet outages despite improving supply. Communications Minister Eslo Owusu-Ekufo expected to appear before Parliament to brief the House on way forward. Also, IMF cautions Ghana to be mindful on the terms of its debt restructuring deal with foreign creditors. And as you just heard there, Ghana's top athletes book places in semi-finals at the All-African Games. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to SriNews.com for more news.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily. Coming up this afternoon, Institute for Energy Security forecasts stable price for diesel and petrol, but a possible increase in LPG price. Will give you the details. Also, the Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, underscores the need to invest in Ghana's internet infrastructure following major internet cuts across the sub-region.
Digital infrastructure, connectivity, applications and services are indispensable to our current way of life and our future way of life. And so if we didn't give it 100% focus as at now, we should.
Plus, President of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, Dr. Daniel Kase, and urges businesses to be transparent with consumers when AI is at play to keep them informed.
We need clear lines of responsibility for AI systems to ensure that consumers are protected and their rights are upheld at all times.
My name is Minua Afo. We'll bring you the details of our headlines and many other stories shortly. Thank you for staying. In our first story, the Institute for Energy Security forecasts stable prices for diesel and petrol, but a possible 4% increase for LPG in the later half of March. There's more in the following 3 Business reports.
Ghanaians are paying more for fuel. Diesel and petrol prices went up by 50 pesos per litre and LPG by 30 pesos per kilogram in the first pricing window of March. Petrol sold at local pumps during the first window in March at 13 cedis 42 pesos on the average per litre. Diesel sold at 14 cedis 42 pesos per litre, while LPG went for 13 cedis 65 pesos per kilogram on the average during the first pricing window. While OPEC predicts rising oil demand, global refined fuel prices are a mixed bag. Gas oil and gasoline prices decreased internationally, but LPG prices went up. The Ghanaian currency's depreciation against the US dollar can affect fuel import costs. The Institute for Energy Security, IES, forecasts stable prices for gas oil and gasoline, but a possible 4% for LPG in the latter half of March.
Well, that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Also, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Patrick Kweku Ofori, is projecting significant hikes in the price of fuel at the pumps this year, largely due to happenings on the international market. Consequently, it's urging the government to stem the depreciation of the cedi to alleviate its impact on consumers.
This year alone, fuel prices have risen significantly with 3 upward adjustments. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors anticipates more of such increases throughout the year. And here is why.
The signals that we are picking from the Asian market, especially the Chinese economy, starting to recover, clearly will push, it's most likely to push demand up, which may also inadvertently increase prices. Not only that, the reception of UK, which economy recently is in recession, America has started picking up. And these, normally these are the three measures. So if you have the Asian bloc recovering and then the American market recovering, that clearly give an indication that there is going to be a stretch or a demand which may inadvertently push prices for crude.
Concerns abound regarding the likely impact of rising fuel costs, with rumors circulating about a potential hike in transport fares. However, the Chamber believes that the impact of the global rise in fuel prices can be addressed locally.
We are hoping that if they are able to look at that aspect for the exchange rate, and which I am confident that they may be able to do that because of other initiatives that they are trying to bring on the table. Once that comes in, and at least even if we cannot control the global prices and that our exchange rate or our currency is relatively stable, I think we benefit from that than having a situation whereby the global international the international prices will be beating you, and then also your currency is also depreciating.
Michael Lobudu, 3 Business, Accra.
Now on to more stories. The Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, has underscored the need to invest in and diversify Ghana's internet infrastructure to mitigate any disruptions in service delivery in the country. This follows major internet cuts across the sub-region due to subsea cable cuts, which have heavily interrupted the operations of businesses in the country reliant on internet connectivity.
We need to look at a technology mix. It's there to on a small scale, but we need to scale it up. But we also need to look at the cost implications of all of that. In these are challenged economic times. The network operators and ISPs are investing in the infrastructure. Government is supporting that investment. We're working on building shared infrastructure that anybody at all can use without putting in place that extensive capital investment upfront that is needed. So there's a lot that is already happening. But what this has taught us is that digital infrastructure, connectivity, applications and services are indispensable to our current way of life and our future way of life. And so if we didn't give it 100% focus as at now, we should. And we need to look at resilient infrastructure. We need to look at climate-friendly infrastructure. We need to look at more scalable systems being put in place. And we need to look at working even closer together with the private sector.
You heard the voice of Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo. Away from that, in an era of artificial intelligence, President of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, Dr. Daniel Kaseti, is urging businesses to be transparent with consumers as AI is at play. He believes this could build consumer trust and benefit businesses in a long run.
Consumers must have the right to know when AI is at play. Organizations must therefore be transparent about how AI systems operate, the data they generate and use, and the impact of their decisions. Transparency builds trust and empowers consumers to make informed decisions. When things go wrong, who is accountable? We need clear lines of responsibility for AI systems to ensure that consumers are protected and their rights are upheld at all times. The consumer has the right to be educated through information dissemination about the use of AIs and how that impacts society. We must understand the benefits, risks, and limitations to enable us navigate this digital landscape confidently and in a secure manner.
Well, Dr. Daniel Kaseti is president of Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana. Now let's shift your attention to Treasury bills. And it's been 11 weeks of consecutive decline in yields. In the very latest Treasury auction, yields on the 91-day bill fell by 25 basis points to 26.49%. That of the 182-day bill also declined to 28.99% from 29.24% previously. And for the 364-day bill, it went down by 25 basis points to 29.59%. The uptake for the bills were, however, positive, as government recorded about 37.7% oversubscription after accepting all bids tendered for the 91, 182 and 364-day bills. Government realized about 5.36 billion cedis at the end of the auction, with a chunk of the bids from the 91-day bill, which had an uptake of over 3.7 billion cedis, followed by the 182-day bill with about 1 billion cedis uptake, and the one-year bill about 574.31 million cedis. The decline in yields implies that government will spend less servicing its debt, although the reduction is marginal. Experts forecast the declining yield trends will continue in line with inflation expectations. And now to a very important topic, as Media General Group Limited has won multiple awards at this year's Ghana Entrepreneur and Corporate Executive Awards. The Group Chief Executive Officer, Beatrice was adjudged the Outstanding Corporate Woman CEO of the Year. The following report has more.
The 14th edition of the Ghana Entrepreneur and Corporate Executive Awards sought to honor entrepreneurs and corporate executives for their sterling performance in their various fields of play.
A round of applause to Madam Beatrice Ajiman, Group Chief Executive Officer, Media General Limited.
Group Chief Executive of Media General, Beatrice Ajiman, was recognized for her sterling and visionary leadership in the media broadcasting industry, overseeing the successful execution of numerous initiatives that have solidified Media General's position as a leading media conglomerate in Ghana. Meanwhile, journalist and anchor on the business desk of the Media General Group, Bakwesi Asari, emerged the Young Achiever of the Year for being the first Ghanaian to win the BBC News Komla Dumor Award.
Last year, 2023, was one of the great moments in my life when I became the first Ghanaian winner of the BBC News Komla Dumor Award. I think that it brought a lot of joy and excitement into the country, and it is testament of the kind of journalism that we have in Ghana and the kind of journalism that we also practice at Media General.
The 2024 Ghana Entrepreneur and Corporate Executive Awards was themed Promoting Digital Entrepreneurship as a Tool for Sustainable Digital Economic Development.
Some good news acknowledging the very good works of Media General Ghana Limited. And that will be all for Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, kindly check out our website www.3news.com. My name is Menu Afodu. Stay tuned. Black Rasta will join in for Urban Blend.